Good evening and welcome to the 6th round of our 1980s Procar Series Championship, the F1 support series with F1 drivers of the time, coming to you tonight from the very scenic and very beautiful Österreichring in Austria. And with me in the booth tonight I have Tim Hille. Good evening, Tim. Let's see, could you speak one more time, make sure you're picked up by the game here, or software? For God's sake. Right. Why have you done this to me? That's it correctly. Do that once and then redo it. Let's try one more time here. For God's sake. Try one more time here. For whatever reason it's not working. Right, why not? We'll be right back after we've sorted out the sound issues we are experiencing. Please bear with us. Right, we are back and I think we have sorted everything. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, everybody.
Now it's working. Wonderful. Sometimes I hate softwares. Anyway. Looking forward to this Österreichring race, are you?
Well, I sure am. It's a fun track. Loads of nice corners, also rather difficult ones, and like in Hockenheim, a lot of slipstream, a lot of late braking action waiting for us around the corner.
Definitely true. And speaking of the track itself, the track looks something like this. It's a 5.942 kilometer road circuit, and we will be seeing the drivers lap it 25 times plus a formation lap for a total of 148.55 competitive kilometers. And looking at the situation in the points championship for this series as well, Szapinski had a good race last time out, and with Grant not present due to other matters, Cesarius has pulled out a little bit of a gap. It is now 30 points between Szapinski and Ridol. Szapinski on 95 points, Grant on 65. We then have Anders Nielsen in third on 46 points. We have Richard Wilkes in fourth on 38 points. And Giovanni Santurame lies fifth on 29 points. And so that you can have a quick look, excuse me, of how the points are distributed. I will also remind you that the drivers need to complete at least 90% of the racer's distance to be classified, which tonight ought to be 22 laps, I believe. And I think since we currently have race driving going on out on track, let's actually jump over and jump on board with Richard Wilkes, who I think will soon be coming around to finish this particular lap. And here we can see why we say this track is quite scenic, quite beautiful. Going into the forest for the last bit of the racetrack here as we come around Rindkurve. It's a double apex long right-hander trying to get a run onto the straight as Richard heads into the pits instead. Let's see if we can find anyone else coming through that's near that section. Looks like Drexler is. Yep, taking a slightly different line, a more tight one around the inside of that whole last Rindkurve. Onto the start-finish straight. Quite a long straight. Coming up over a crest at the front here. Let's jump on board with Juha. If I can find him. There he is. This is the Hellerlicht S. A right, left, right combination. Very tricky braking zone as you brake on top of a crest. Ooh, struggling to get the gears in. Up the hill here is Flatschach. Bit of a difficult word for me to say. Into Dr. Tiroch Curve. A uphill, somewhat wrongly banked right-hander. Very difficult to get the power down very well here, as we can see. You are really having to work to get the car running. Valvoline Gerade, or Valvoline Straight, under the mobile banner, which ends in a little bit of a left kink, lining up for a difficult braking zone for Bosch Curve. Fairly tight turn that goes right here and tightens at the end. Jump on board with David Wattman here, who's coming up to the same section. You can see what the last few turns are called, although we've seen those a couple of times before by now. Into Bosch Curve, as we can see here, really difficult to get the braking right. Leans towards the outside, pulling you towards the barriers, and then opens and tightens after each other. Down into Texaco Chicane. This left-hander I don't think technically has a name. Just a very difficult one. And then into the Texaco Chicane, which is a very fast left-right turn. The right-hander is more of a kink, one could say. And Rindkurve is the final turn, and before that the straight is known as Raiffeisenhügel. So, Tim, any thoughts on who will win here tonight, or have a good race?
Well, Santurame looked good in qualifying, as he did in Hockenheim, so, you know, continuing his form of good pace on circuits with long straights. So he might be on the podium again. And, you know, Wilkes P5, but you could always finish in the top 2, or maybe even win here. If Cesaris has got some problems, who is the obvious favorite for this race.
Definitely possible. We're unfortunately missing, I think, 2 cars on the grid here, but starting from pole position will be Cesariusz Szlapinski in the green number 5 BNS Fabrications. Second will be Grant Riddall for Project 4. Third on the grid is Anders Nilsson for BMW Austria for the team's home race. Giovanni Centorame fourth for Sol Auto BMW. Richard Wilkes lines up 5th for Schutz Racing. John Tim will be lining up 6th for Manfred Casani Racing. And Dario Appa in the number 27 BNS Fabrications lining up 7th. Juha Boers will line up 8th for Sauber Racing Switzerland. Dave Miller lines up 9th in the second of the Sauber entries. And Damir Kuratko rounds out the top 10 in qualifying for GS Tuning. David Saber will line up 11th for BNS Fabrications, number 26. Jules Bouchard will be lining up 12th for Kanacher GT in a one-off drive in the series. Jason White will line up 13th for Mazzario team. Ray Riddall will be 14th in the second of the GS Tuning cars, with Michael Drexler starting from 15th in the second of the Mazzario team cars. David Wattmann will line up 16th for Team Schnitzer, with his brother Simon 17th for Marco Rennsport. Luciano Rocha will start from 18th in the Scuderia Basilea car, with Aniel May 19th for Team Schnitzer, and I think rounding out the grid is Santino Pochetta in the number 28 BNS Fabrications. And here we can see all the cars coming up. Ooh, a car on the grass there. Oh, pulling
Yeah,
off.
that's here. We will have a restart for Dana Shura, who left us just before he got rolling.
Oh, well, that's very unfortunate, but good sporting thing to do.
So who do you think is going to be successful today, after you asked me before the beginning of the race, or beginning of the warm-up lap rather?
That's a very difficult question to answer, because I honestly had no eyes on any of the proceedings. But I do have a bit of a thought that this track could possibly suit Anders quite a bit. Not that much braking as such. There's 2 very big braking zones, but other than that, it's more about keeping momentum and keeping the tires on the car, and I think that's something Anders, with the background in, among other sim racing series, long distance racing, will know a thing or two about.
Anders was also quite decent in qualifying. I think he qualified 3rd, behind the usual suspects Grant and Cesarius, which is decent, you know.
In my eyes, very good, because if you can be a effectively best of the rest when you know there are some real qualifying demons in the field. I'd be very happy with that personally.
Well, I think everybody except for Cesarius and Grant would be happy to qualify third in the Procars right now.
You're probably right. But since we're waiting for the formation lap, let's actually have a quick look at the trivia question for you all to think about while we wait and while the race is going on. The question for you tonight is one where I sort of knew, but still felt like I did a guess. The M1 was classified as what group of car for the 24 hours of Le Mans? The 24 hours of Le Mans. Was it A, classified as a Group 2 car? Was it B, classified as a Group B car? Or was it C, classified as a Group 5 car? Back in what would have been 79, 80, maybe 81, 82.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that.
We'll know a little bit later, I suppose. While we also wait for the formation lap to finish up, I'll remind you that next weekend, on April the 2nd, round 6 out of 16 for our 1986 F1 Championship will commence at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the 25th Grand Prix Labatt du Canada. Probably butchered that quite a bit. I don't speak French much. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to that race, but should be an interesting one. Track is fairly open to most cars to do well.
Definitely a challenging racetrack to just stay concentrated for the entire 300 kilometers we will spend there next Sunday.
Definitely so. Let's see, so Dana Schurer qualified 9th in the second of the Scuderia Basilea cars, so Dave Miller is the final car in the top 10. And then obviously Damir Kuratko and the others move one place further back.
Interesting to note that both the first and last car is from BS Fabrication, so what should be the works BMW, so to say, here. So everybody is in a nice BNS Fabrications sandwich right now. Who knows how that would taste?
Probably a little bit oily and petrol-y.
Sounds like the perfect breakfast for me.
I mean, yeah. There's definitely far worse breakfasts to have. We can see here one of the very nice cameras we have with the helicopter cam coming down from Bosch Curve. I think it follows the cars pretty much all the way up to Rindkurve, the final turn on the track. Or technically it might be a blimp, because that was when they still used blimps as such. Because I think those have mostly gone out of use due to production using cranes to broadcast races nowadays and get cameras into good positions as such. So this is Raiffeisenhügel. I think it's specifically this hump here under the Texaco banner. See that you have Bors missed his starting point. Let's go with this camera as we will be able to see the lights from this position. I think they are on the starter's orders. The lights are on, the green light is on, and we are on the way. Oh, and a very lackluster start for Jason White back there, but Ray with a very good start. You see a little bit further up here. And we can see Grant already attacking Schlapinski. Let's see if everyone survives the Helle S for the first time. Ooh! I think that was Dave Miller out in the grass there, but looks like everyone got through all right. And now working their way up Flatschach towards Dr. Tiroch Curve. We can see Richard Wilkes has taken third away from Anders Nilsson at the start, and the rest of the guys streaming through. Oh, we can see that unfortunately Jason White out in the barrier on the outside at the Tiroch Curve. And here is Grant Riddall now attacking Schlapinski, going down towards the difficult braking zone as at Bosch Curve as Schlapinski on the grass. This is a big off. Hard into the barriers. Ooh, that's a bit of time lost. Oh, and he makes contact with Anders Nilsson as well. Nilsson passed too. And here comes Centorame to try and take the position as well. Not able to make it happen.
Will be interesting to see if Cesaris got some damage from it, because there was a rather hard shunt into the wall right there.
We can definitely see there's some damage to the bodywork at least. I think the biggest thing will be how much of a top speed difference will it be, along with of course possible traction damage as such to the suspension or to track rods and other things, but for now it looks like the right-handers are relatively okay. So here they come down the front straight up towards Helle S, and Schlapinski looking up the inside of Anders Nilsson on the braking, but Anders later on the brakes on the preferred racing line, and for now is hanging on. Centorame is still in behind, and now we can see Schlapinski again looking for a move. We have Joa Bors in 7th, Jon Tim in 8th, Saber 9th, and Ray Riddall running out of top 10 with Dave Miller in 11th. And back up towards the top end of the field. Oh, a lot of understeer for Schlapinski there. I think he managed to get the car into a decent exit. And Grant, meantime, with a near 2-second lead over Wilkes. And then this battle. Let's see it right on board with Anders Nilsson looking back. As Schlapinski gets a little bit crossed up, but I think... Oh, look at that. Actually makes a little bit of contact with the rear end of Anders Nilsson. He's that quick into that turn. I'd say this is one of those situations that can crop up where you are quicker, but you've made a mistake, you're back in the pack, and you can't really run the way you want to run, which is quicker, but there's cars in your way.
Yeah, the most important thing now is to get settled into your own rhythm, find your own rhythm and get past off the cars that are stopping you right now. Which, as we just saw with that little lovely kiss by Cesaris, is Anders, and probably also Wilkes, looking at the pace. So who knows how long it's going to take him to overtake these two guys, and if he's going to catch up with Grant.
It'll certainly be interesting to watch what happens. Here is Dave Miller and Dana Schurrer. Dana Schurrer with a bit of a run. Yep, up the inside towards the Helle Licht S. Both of them look to be late on the brakes, but Schurrer up the inside and passed up into 11th. Jos Bouchard meanwhile is 13th with David Wattmann 14th, Simon Wattmann 15th. Then we have Drexler and Rocha. Look like they just concluded a bit of a battle. With then Jason White 18th, Angel May 19th, and Santino Pochetta looks like he's heading for the pit lane in 20th. And Damir Koratko already retired. Let's see if we can quickly check. Looks like it happened a while ago, so I'm not going to be able to catch that, as I just realized I don't have replays set for this, so no replays to be watching in this race. My apologies for that. But either way, the battles are on. Though it looks like the guys here are starting to settle into their own race paces as such. Ooh, Wilkes putting a wheel on the grass coming out of the Texaco chicane. That can be quite scary to do. A big lock-up for someone back in the pack. I think that was a blue car, but I don't see anyone losing a lot of positions, so...
I think this might be Ray Riddle, who lost about a second to Sabre now.
Oh, that's probably correct indeed.
And the blue GS tuning car sponsored by Denim.
Definitely could have been. I also noticed Rocha seemed to have made a bit of a mistake, and now we can see Schlapinski looks to be struggling just a little bit with top speed. While he was in the slipstream, he was able to run at a good pace, but oh, he understeers again into the barriers. Loses a further 2 positions here. So Centorame passed and Dauyapa passed. Schlapinski down to 6th.
We have seen before that he was quite fast into the Bosch curve, even kissing Anders, and maybe he always braked a little bit too late, but he was still able to slow it down, and now he was just too fast and couldn't slow it down. But this Bosch curve, he isn't going to like it at the end of the race.
No, indeed, and I think Sabre won't like the infield either. He just went wide, and loses 2 positions. With that, down to 11th and outside the top 10. And now out of the points, as we can see behind, Schurer and Procar in battle. Procar trying to look up the inside into the final turn at Rindkurve, but not able to make that happen. Dario Appa all crossed up coming through the Helle Licht S, but able to hold on to it and still maintain the position, although a bad exit. Could see Schlapinski draft past. And looks like he'll probably going to be able to do so. Unless Appa can hold on around outside with a good run. Ooh, just barely not able to do it. Oh, but a good exit. Cut back. Oh, a bit of contact. Teammates making contact there, but both of them surviving. We can see that Dario here is quite crossed up in a couple of places, so I think he will probably struggle a little bit later in the race. I would assume he's using a bit too much rear tires at the moment.
But it's the great display of car control. As I nearly jinxed him.
Commentators curse and all that, eh?
I'm used to it by now. No, but it's a great display of car control to show how he is able to control the car and the limit. But as also Kayo said on the chat already, these tires don't like being used that much. There's already, even if you drive normally, there's barely enough life in the tires at the end of the race. Especially around here where the rear left tire takes a big beating around the lap, just like in Hockenheim. Because we got so many fast right-handers where you want to be on the throttle as early as possible. So these rear left tires, they're going to scream at the end of the race.
Indeed. And while that was going on, Schurer looking up the inside with a good run out of Rindkurve into Helle Licht S. Owen, yep, just about able to make the position stick. Miller was rather sporting. He could have fought it a little bit harder. So I notice, unfortunately, David Saber and Angel May has retired from the race as well. Possibly in a situation where both were involved, but unfortunately 3 retirees from this race now. And Miller out of the points, Schurer back in. Always, I think that's Santino Pochetta to the right there, letting the faster cars by. And it does look like the drivers are most likely tire limited in terms of the lap times they are running, because Grant has shown that he, along with Schlapinski, has had the biggest advantage in pace in the field, but only 2.7 seconds to lead. But with the gaps around, let's ride on board with Grant and see how a quick lap is done around this track. There we are, and while we were watching that, Dario Appas had a bit of a moment somewhere because he is back in 13th now. Was 6th just a lap ago. Let's see, no damage to the car, so I'd assume he spanned somewhere. Ooh! Oh no! And that's a big hit to the barriers. Unfortunately, his rear tires are starting to cry enough already.
Yeah, he had a mistake somewhere in the middle sector because he lost 23 seconds there. And might be his tires, as we've just seen. They're already done after 7 laps.
Ooh, indeed. I wonder, could it be the situation where he put on the tires he had in qualifying?
Might be. Either way, it doesn't seem to work out for him right now.
No, indeed. The reason I say that, in case you're new to viewing the series, the drivers have 2 sets of tires for qualifying, warm-up and race. So that's why maybe he used both sets in qualifying to get a good qualifying position, and now it's coming back to haunt him as Jules Procar had a bit of a moment in 11th now. Dave Miller up into the top 10, back into the top 10 I should say, with Appas demise back towards 13th. Sure now 9th, Ray Riddle now 8th, you have Bors now 7th, and then we have Jon Tim now 6th, so Jon Tim has passed Bors as well. And then we have Schlapinski attacking Centorame for 4th even.
I've been watching this battle for the last few laps, and it seems like Santarama is able to be faster in the middle sector and also in the exits, which means that Cesarius doesn't get the run he should get to overtake him, as you see right now. He's opening just a little bit of a gap and a good exit, which means that Cesarius doesn't have the speed or overspeed to overtake him into the next corner.
Well, I suppose it'll be a question of will there be a mistake or not by either driver then. Ooh, and we can see Schlapinski really fast into the turns, while maybe just a little bit lackluster coming out of them. And not that far ahead is Anders Nilsson, who I think just made a bit of a mistake, as he's now 3 seconds behind Richard Wilkes. I think that's a tiny mistake.
Yeah, he lost to 1.5 seconds in the first sector. Maybe misjudged it at Heller Licht S.
Could definitely be the case. Schlapinski now looking up the inside though. Oh, but Centorame really late on the brakes, cuts him off and keeps hold of 4th for now. Great defensive work. And still with a really good exit too.
Yeah, I think Santarama used the same technique in Hockenheim to pass other people on the outside until the first chicane. So he really likes braking on the outside for a chicane and keeping his place, or even actually getting a place.
Indeed. Looks like Schlapinski has finally found a little bit of pace and how to drive that somewhat damaged car, because he's now really giving Centorame Oh, look at that! What a move! He actually managed to take the position. Holy moly, what a move! As unfortunately, Juha Boos has retired.
I think the driver of the number 5 car, Cesarius, needs a new wear of underpants now.
Ouch. Unfortunately, Jason White had a big off as well. So I'm trying to work out where Boos retired there. So either Juha had a big off at Tirol Curve, or his engine let out, but oh, looks like Dario Appa is in trouble again as well, now in 14th.
His engine is off. He might have blown it.
Oh, that's highly unfortunate, as it looks like he is trying to.
Yeah, he's selecting gears, but the engine won't start.
Well, that's very unfortunate for Dario. Yeah, Appa now a retiree as well. Procar up into the top 10. Santino Pacetta drive-through, I'd assume for being given cut track warnings. I noticed he was out in the grass earlier, so maybe the game picking that up as a bit of a cut. But Dave Miller and Dana Schurer still battling now for 8th and 9th.
And at the front, Richard Wilkes about halved the gap to Grant. It's now to 2 seconds after it was nearly 4 seconds at some point in the race earlier.
That's interesting. And Anders likewise just creeping a little bit closer to Wilkes as well.
And while we speak, Cesarius is probably catching up to all of them right now.
Definitely possible. I think it looks like Anders may have made another mistake at Helle Lichtes. Dropped 7/10 to Wilkes. Looks like Dana may have made a bit of a mistake because her and Ray were really close together just a moment ago, but now a gap after probably locking up into Helle S and just having to slow it down a little bit extra through there.
Probably the tire wear creeping in already. We are now at half race distance, but it also means half tire wear essentially. Or you can already sort of starting that the grip leaves you. You can still drive good lap times, but it's always like on the edge of the sword, on the knife's edge, and it's yeah. Now we're getting into the risky zone, especially when you think about fast corners where you can't really do much if you enter too fast. If you look at the Bosch curve, you're bound to crash into the guard lines at the outside. So it's now also a game of how much risk are you willing to take with the tires.
Indeed. Jonatan in what is now a very quiet 6th place, nearly 10 seconds to the car in front, and nearly 10 seconds to Ray behind. And I mean, one of the things that makes this track scenic is the forest and the countryside near the track, but that has also caused the few scary moments around this place. I know in the early 2000s it was I think Juan Pablo Montoya who got a call on the radio saying please pit, there's a deer on the track. Which, in a way, they started looking for, especially after Stefan Johansson had his quite substantial off in, would it have been 1987, I think.
Andrea just Cesaris also had quite a famous off around here with the Texaco chicane in the entry,
Indeed,
where he
did.
lost it.
But in a way, I suppose one could say that the Chesa is when he did go off, it was often quite spectacular, because I have the impression, at least, that he never, a bit like Colin McRae, either he had a really good race, a really good event, or he had an off.
Well, that's where he got his nickname from, Andrea de Crasheris. Or it was something with Crash and his last name. And well, it's quite fitting to what you just described.
Well, I mean, Colin in his very early days was called Colin McCrash, so in the words of what I think was the Subaru management at the time, well, he might write off most cars he drives, but we know that when he puts an event together, he is going to win. Lo and behold, I think later that same year, he did win what was the first rally for the Subaru Legacy in the New Zealand round of the World Rally Championship. Oh no, wait, Ray Riddle with a spin at Bosch Curve. Oh, and Dana not quite able to sneak past, but Ray able to get back going. Dave Miller not able to get past Dana Schurer here. Although No, he does not go for the dive.
Ray also lost the place to Jules Bouchard, our F1 championship leader right now in 9th place and 7 seconds behind 8th place.
Oh no, and Ray with overheated rears, I think, has had another off here. And he needs to be careful to slow down so he doesn't get too big of a cut track there. Looks like he's good to go now. We'll just need to be a little bit more careful for a few turns. Sorry to cut you off, go on.
No, already said everything. Jules Bouchard, our leader, different car now, spec series. Instead of at the front, he is P9. Well, compared to F1, we got some different faces, like Anders, who's usually in the midfield, is P3 right now. And, well, Juha's retired, but he normally would also be at the front of the F1 races in his Ferrari.
Indeed. Let's jump on board with Dave Miller. Now is the sole remaining Sauber race in Switzerland car. Trying to get to grips with Dana Shure in front of him. It's an interesting point of view, this one, because you can really see how much the car is moving around when you look in front of Dana's car, where the rear end is just snaking and snaking and snaking. And you can see all the counter steering Dave is doing to the car as well. Really love that side of the rear quarter panel, effectively camera.
Well, all the counter steering is also, you know, a solution for the fact that you got a mid-engine and rear-wheel drive, which means you have a lot of fun, if you can control it.
Which is something I can't, so that's one of the reasons I'm sitting here instead and enjoying seeing others be able to control the cars and have a lot of fun in them.
Would be funny to see how a M1 with front-wheel drive would feel like. And I'm sure you would be faster in that.
Possibly. The problem would be that the engine is in the middle and make the balance quite strange.
Well, strange things are usually fun things.
Quite. Jason White getting out of the way of Slapinski there. And looks like Anders is actually catching Richard Wilkes now come the end of the race. So Anders looking after the tires like I thought he would probably be able to do.
Cesario is also not really able to catch up to the top 3 right now. The gap is somewhat stayed at something between 3 and 4 seconds. And he actually built up a gap to Santorama, so Cesario's maybe not even on the podium today, which is rather a shocker, given his performances in the last races, or in the championship itself.
Very much so.
Actually, he did a mistake and lost about 3 seconds. His gap to Santorama, who is now 7 tenths behind him. I think I might have jinxed him.
Oh, and Richard Wilkes with a mistake at the Helle Licht S. Off the track and with a half spin. Anders Nilsson up into second. Just caught the tail end of that. Now I would assume 7 seconds compared to Grant is probably too much, but will still be interesting to see if Anders can eat into that gap at all.
We saw on Brands Hatch that Grant's tires were really ruined at the end of the race, and if Anders has some old Swedish luck with him right now, he might has a little bit of a chance. But I don't know how lucky you Swedish people are, so I can't judge that.
Well, in F1 and such racing, not often that very lucky. In other kinds of racing, like rallying and maybe rallycross and stuff, a bit more lucky. This I'd assume would be somewhere in between. So 50-50. Interesting to see that he's gained about half a second. The last half a lap or so. Though that is too little to gain in a single lap if he wants to have a go at Grant, I think. Looks like Wilkes has had another moment and dropped further back, or maybe just backed off to make sure he has tires left.
Yeah, let them cool down for a few corners. Don't put so much stress through them, so you get some tires left at the end of the race. If Cesario's catching him, he still has to, use the tires and defend for his position. And the last podium place. Very sporting of who I think is Rocha, letting Anders past before the Texaco chicane. Jules just had a spin, he might lose 9th. But he got it rolling again, nice 360. 9 out of 10 style points for him.
And Ray, we can see right in behind. Will probably be within a second by the time they start braking for Boschgrava. And obviously with a spin, Procar needs to be careful of the hot tires here.
Ray Redall can sing you a song about it, about his experiences in the race with hot tires
Indeed.
and a spin after a spin.
Definitely so. Ooh, and we can see there Procar all crossed up coming through that left-hander. And again, really sideways. And Ray sneaking ever closer. And it looks like there's a nice little battle behind these two as well. Roughly the same distance between David Wattmann and Michael Drexler. Unfortunately for both of them, 13 and a half seconds behind Ray, who is in the last points paying position, but nice little battle either way.
Well, Ray will be 9th in a few moments because John Tim lost his engine.
Oh no! Well, that's a rotten bit of luck. I suppose with so many long straights, this is very likely to be a car breaker as such, especially for the engine. And so then this battle becomes quite interesting to watch between Wattmann and Drexler. As David now gets into 10th position and into the points, but very closely followed by Drexler in behind.
And while we speak, Andrews closed the gap to Grant a little bit. It's now 5 seconds. He's still got 3 laps left to get closer to him, which won't be enough. But who knows, with worn down tires, if Grant makes a little mistake, the old Swedish Fox Anders might be there. Take it.
Indeed so. Ooh. Almost very, very close there, but Drexler was able to back out of it. And this track has been dangerous in other occasions as well, with nature as such, because this is one of the race tracks in the 70s where there were a lot of water bucketing down for a year or two, and I think it was one of 3 wins for Beretta was here, but upon crossing the finish line he ended up aquaplaning and crashed quite substantially after the finish of the race.
I think that was 75 for Brambilla.
For Brambilla it was indeed.
Yeah, Vittoria Brambilla, I think in March even. I mean, if you want to crash the car, if you're in the lead, you want to do it in the start-finish track, because if you still roll over the line, it will still be the win. I mean,
Indeed.
the mechanics got some work to do, but the win is a win. I'll take it.
Indeed. But he was even across the finish line when the car started aquaplaning and he went off. So it's one of those where I suppose the pit crew was like, yeah, applauding and everything, and then they follow the car and they see, oh no, shit.
The driver also went from overly happy to, oh no, I just lost it within a few seconds.
Quite. I think I've seen one such aquaplane moment during my lifetime, which was in the V8 Supercars Championship. McDougall, I think the driver's name was, at Phillip Island on the start-finish straight. A lot of water came down, and what would have been, I think, 1997 or 98? Probably 98. Where he went for the left-hand side of the road, hit a puddle, and the car just lifted itself up onto the water, and you could just see, well, that's spinning off to the right. That's where there's a tire stack and earth wall. Ooh, and quite a big off. And on a track that is, in terms of how it drives, quite similar to this Österreichring track. A bit of undulation, long sweeping corners, and very, very quick corners.
There were also some quite good MotoGP races over there at Phillip Island. Even though it's hard to watch them for us Europeans, because we have to get up at like 6 in the morning.
Indeed.
Other people have to deal with that pain every single European race, so I guess it's, you know, balance.
Indeed.
Drexler with a good save right there. The car just lost it at the exit, but he managed to keep it together and managed to not hit the wall, most importantly, but he lost a few tenths. So David can now breathe a little bit and maybe relax even.
Indeed. Just caught it in my peripheral as I was looking elsewhere, so that looks like Wattmann may have 10th secured, as we are on the final lap for Grant Vidal. And he has 4 seconds of a gap, so unless he makes quite a substantial error, looks like he will be able to hold on to take the win here and close the gap to Schlapinski in the championship standings. And close to a flawless race for Grant from what I've seen. Just a couple of tiny errors, losing a second or two, but other than that, very good race. As here he comes into Rindkurve for the final time. And taking it nice and easy, gets the car through there, no problem. So Grant Riddall coming towards the finish line to take the win here tonight in the Austrian round of the Procar Championship. Second place goes to Anders Nilsson. Richard Wilkes will finish third. And looks like Cesare Schlapinski will finish fourth. Good recovery drive after his offs earlier in the race. Santorame finishes fifth. And Dana Schurer looks to be on track to finish sixth in her one-off drive for Scuderia Basilea. Which I think will be one of the best finishes for the team this year. As here she comes out of Rindkurve and crosses the finish line to finish sixth. Behind her, Dave Miller in the Saab Racing Switzerland car will finish seventh. And looks like Jules Procar, despite what looks like may have been a late race off, is holding onto the car through the final turn and holds on to finish eighth. Ray Riddall coming through Rindkurve in ninth to finish the race, and David Wattmann in a one-off drive for Team Schnitzer, I believe that's a one-off drive at least, will take the final points-paying position in 10th. Not too far behind is Michael Drexler, who I think will be happy with the battle he had, and a bit bummed with not scoring points, but still probably happy with that. Simon Wattmann has finished 12th, with Lucian Rocha 13th, and Jason White, I think our last runner, finishing in 14th. Here he comes to do that. And apart from those, we had Jon Tim, Santino Pachetta, Daria Appa, Juha Bols, David Saber, Engel May and Damir Kuratko retiring from the race. Yeah, well, what a race that turned out to be.
I have to say, great display of car control from some people in both the early parts of the race and also the last part of the race. It was good racing, I have to say.
I have to wholeheartedly agree with you on that. That was good fun to watch, and some really good, close, hard but fair racing that we could see. Really good stuff. Speaking of competition, in a way, while we wait for drivers to possibly join, the trivia question, where we can see that the question was, the M1 was classified as what group of car for the 24 hours of Le Mans? Was it A, a Group 2 car, B, a Group B car, or was it C, a Group 5 car? I know you said you thought you probably know this, so what do you think the correct answer is, Tim?
Yeah, well, it can't be Group 5. It isn't Group 2 because Group 2 I think was like small class for cars like the Scirocco. So it must be Group B.
Your power of deduction, and if you don't mind me saying, German mind indeed has that as the correct answer. It is Group B.
Feels good to know the correct answer.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely nice when the stars align as such. Doesn't look like we have any drivers coming into the booth here. So, any final thoughts for this event?
Well, as I said before, it was a nice place. It was nice being here in the booth with you, Jonathan. And I hope to be here next time also.
Well, it's always nice having you with me in the booth, Tim. Thank you very much for joining me. Yeah, racing was really good. Will be interesting to see how the drivers tackle the next challenge as well, which I believe will be...
I think it might be Zandvoort already.
It is Zandvoort indeed. Ooh, that will be highly interesting to watch. A bit of a toy box car section to start the lap. First quarter of the lap, and then the wide open stretches of the just beyond the beaches track out in the fields over crests and everything. That'll be a challenge in itself as well. But yeah, thank you to you, Tim, for joining me. Thank you to all our drivers for putting on a really good drive and a really good show. Thank you to all of you joining in to watch the race and interact with us. I hope you all enjoyed watching the race as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. And be ready to tune in next weekend when the 6th round of the 1986 F1 Championship will be coming about, and that championship is still very tight, so don't stay away, it'll be really interesting. But until then, have a great week, take care of yourselves, and be kind to one another. Good evening, everyone.